Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a bit of a different video today where we're having a bit of a look at IRL Formula 1. Now it's been a very long time since I did a video of this sort of thing. For those of you just wondering, the background footage is from the British Grand Prix for the Haas Road to Glory career mode that went out live yesterday, I think at the time this video is going out. But yeah, today we're going to be having a look at my F1 2020 driver predictions. You know, silly season is well and truly upon us now in the world of Formula 1, and with the Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend as well, you know, it's certainly, I think, you know, we're going to see sort of a bit more news come over the summer, you know, see what a few teams are going with and everything like that. Now, I'll be honest, I don't often buy too much into the silly season hype, and I think especially with how crazy last year was, we're not going to see many big changes. I think there's obviously quite a few talking points nonetheless, but I certainly don't think we're going to see, you know, as many swaps as we saw last year, where I think in the end it was just Mercedes and Haas that kept their driver lineup heading into F1 2019. But yeah, basically what I'm going to do is just run through all of the teams, you know, potentially talk about a few talking points and everything like that. So we'll basically run down the order from the Drivers' World Championship, you know, or the Constructors' World Championship, you know, basically just the simplest way to go about it there. And obviously we'll kick things off with the reigning world champions, Mercedes. And obviously at the moment, Hamilton and Bottas. Hamilton obviously is going to stay unless by some weird decision, you know, either he completely falls off in the second half of the season. Perhaps we'll see a Seb style kind of fall off like we saw from Seb 2018 till last weekend. I must admit, not even as a Seb fan, it was quite nice to see him, you know, almost come across like he's sort of starting to bring it back once again. Hopefully, you know, this form can continue a bit in towards the second half of the season. Yeah, but Mercedes, obviously Hamilton is just going to stay. I don't think there's really any topic of debate over that at the moment there. And honestly, you know, there's a few talks, you know, potentially Esteban Ocon going to that team, everything like that. Personally, I'm going to be boring, I'm afraid. I'm just going to say Mercedes are going to stick with Valtteri Bottas for 2020. I personally think the offer could be thought about for Ocon, but I think he's going to bring himself out of the Mercedes team, you know, and I'm going to talk further on about that in a moment as well. But I don't think really it's never going to be sensible, especially for a team like Mercedes, you know, right at the top of Formula 1, to bring back a driver who spent a year out of the sport as well. You know, it would be absolutely madness in my opinion for them. And I think overall, despite Bottas, you know, it was a big hammer blow this weekend, if he can get his act together, and even if he's just, you know, a consistent second driver to Lewis Hamilton once again, I don't think Mercedes can really ask more than that. I don't think they really want more than that at the end of the day as well. You know, it's all well and good having the sort of Hamilton-Rosberg fireworks, everything like that, where you have got two drivers performing very well, at least through 2014 and 2016. I think Mercedes are happy with, as long as Bottas is a consistent second driver, you know, he can back up the 1-2s, everything like that. Potentially, if we see, you know, Red Bull and Ferrari bringing a bit of a resurgence to form as well throughout the second half of 2019, moving into 2020. I don't think there's really too much that Mercedes are going to, you know, take a gamble on in this side of things. It just doesn't make sense, at least in my opinion, nonetheless. Then moving on, though, into Ferrari then, and, well, once again, I'm going to have to be a bit boring, I'm afraid. I'm going to keep Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel in that team. Now, there are always a few talks about potentially Seb, you know, there's nothing really ever been said, you know, professionally or things like that, but there was always just this thing about, you know, would Seb think about retiring, everything like that. And to be honest, I think he's too set in this dream of the, you know, bringing Ferrari back to the top in Formula 1. I think the only reason Seb's going to leave that team is either they want to do a direct swap with him for Hamilton, which, let's be fair, would be absolutely crazy, but I just don't see that happening at the moment either there. And I think although Charles Leclerc is certainly stepping in towards that number one driver within that team, I think the rest of 2019 and 2020 are going to be very telling for Ferrari. You know, if we get to the point by the end of 2020, you know, where Charles Leclerc is hands down, you know, there's not really any debate that he's better than Sebastian Vettel by the end of the year, I think then we could see Seb retire heading into 2021. But yeah, 2020 though, I'm keeping Mercedes and Ferrari as the same lineups for now. Moving on though, in towards Red Bull, and this is the one that everyone is talking about at the moment. This is the one that really a lot of people are predicting some change, and I'm actually going to join the bandwagon on this one. I'm predicting for 2020, maybe even before 2020, I'm predicting Max Verstappen and Danny Kvyat. Now, I really did think about trying to put Alexander Albon into that seat, but I think at the moment, I think ultimately that podium at, you know, the German Grand Prix last time out is just going to carry too much weight in towards Red Bull's lookings for F1 2020. Now, that being said, like I've sort of mentioned as well, I think there is the potential for Kvyat to get that seat as well by the end of this year. You know, if Gasly really doesn't perform, potentially, you know, if he has a disastrous Hungarian Grand Prix, they might consider it. I can't see Red Bull doing it, though, personally. I think they'll hold on to Gasly unless he's beyond abysmal in the second half of the season there and he doesn't get his act together. I think we could see Kvyat back into that seat for 2020. I'll be honest, it's probably a little bit of a basic guess, but it's a safe guess as well at the end of the day there. So I think we could see Kvyat back in that seat ready for next year. Then we move on to McLaren. This one really easy. McLaren have already confirmed their lineup for next year. They're keeping Lando Norris and they're keeping Carlos Sainz. Personally, I think that's a good decision. Everything like that as well. You know, that just makes sense. McLaren are doing well. They've had a bit of a resurgence this year and everything like that. It would be ridiculous for them to move it around. Plus, Sainz and Lando both doing good work, in my opinion, as well there. Moving on, though, into Renault. Now, this one is a little bit of an interesting one. There were a few talks recently. I know, I think it was Will Buxton, even, I should say, confirmed this just a couple of hours ago, even at the time of recording this, on Twitter, saying that Hülkenberg has confirmed, you know, he'll be trying to stay in Formula 1 next year. Again, Renault are going to be a bit boring. I think they're just going to keep their lineup. You know, Danny Rick is... Although I think it's been a frustrating opening half of the season for for him moving from Red Bull, I think, you know, there's no chance, obviously, he's going to go anywhere, and I think Hülkenberg, obviously, is keeping that seat as well. Like I said, there were some talks that Hülkenberg could be going to Porsche for Formula E. I don't think he's really ready to make that switch just yet. You know, he's still performing quite well in Formula 1 nonetheless there. So, yeah, I think he'll be sticking out with Renault for next year there. Then we move on to Racing Point. This one's a little bit of a weirder one because really no one, you know, I don't think anyone can ever predict Lawrence Stroll's, obviously, we can't see him giving Lance Stroll the boot at the end of the day. You know, I had really considered, you know, Perez potentially going somewhere else, but I don't think there's really any point for him going anywhere as well. You know, I had considered him thinking about going to Haas, but I just don't think it's really going to happen at the end of the day there. So yeah, once again, Racing Point, I personally think they're going to keep their lineup as well. Then we move on though to Haas. Now, once again, finally, I'm actually making a little bit, I wouldn't quite call it a bold prediction, but I'm certainly going to call it a little bit of a, you know, I think a change up in Haas is necessary. And I think Grosjean, he's had a wonderful strategy in Formula 1 throughout the last few years of being absolutely shocking throughout the first half of the season and then scrapes up some good results in the latter stages, you know, that ultimately keeps him his seat once again. At the moment, though, I don't think that's happening. I think F1 2020, they're going to keep Magnussen. He's, you know, performing so much better than Grosjean generally at the moment. You know, the last couple of weeks have been a bit rough for the pair of them. But, you know, Magnussen, when the opportunities have opened up, he's really been able to capitalise on like Romain Grosjean so far this season. So I'm saying Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon. I knew he'd sort of form into this at some place down the line as well. And yeah, I think Haas, you know, Ocon, like I said, I think he's going to try and get himself out of that Mercedes family as we head in towards next year. Whether he'll sort of stick close to them nonetheless is a very different question. But I think, yeah, we're going to see Ocon really try and do anything he possibly can to make his way back into Formula 1 ready for the next season there. So I'm going to put, yeah, Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon into the Haas team ready for F1 2020. Sauber, though, I'm keeping it simple. I think, you know, Raikkonen's obviously got his contract to the end of 2020. I think Giovinazzi, although, to be honest, I've completely forgot for 99% of the season that he's even racing. I don't think he's legitimately had anything to really talk about, you know, potentially apart from, you know, the points, or the point even, I should say, at Austria. I just don't... honestly, I've completely forgot that he's even racing this year. You know, he's been such a behind-the-scenes sort of character and everything like that. But I think, you know, they're working well together. Raikkonen provides that experience. Giovinazzi is still young, and I think Sauber are willing to give him that time as well to really try and, you know, build himself up and everything like that. Moving on, though, into the final couple of teams, though, Williams. Now, I know this one's probably going to be a little bit... I don't know whether this is controversial or not, in my personal opinion. You know, I'm personally saying Russell is going to stay, and I'm going to put Nicholas Latifi in there. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really follow Formula 2 all too much, unfortunately. I just, you know, being in the UK, although Sky do show it, you know, I mainly sort of watch Formula 1. I'd love to get into a bit more Formula 2, but I tend to honestly just forget that it's on a lot of the time as well. I know the racing is insane and everything like that, but I'm going to put Nicholas Latifi in that second seat. For those of you that watch Formula 2 though, please let me know in the comments why on earth that's a stupid idea and why on earth I shouldn't be making this sort of video at the end of the day as well. Yeah, I'm putting Nicholas Latifi in that second seat alongside George Russell. I know Kubica scored that point at Hockenheim. Honestly, everyone's saying about how it's such a feel-good story. It honestly has tilted me a little bit because knowing that George Russell's probably going to go 21-0 in qualifying this year and still Robert Kubica is going to be ahead of him in the World Championship. And then we move on though finally to Toro Rosso. You know, pretty simple from my opinion. Alexander Albon, he's going to be given the time to, you know, sort of continue building up his pace and momentum and everything like that. Whether we'll see Red Bull scrap Danny Kvyat once again down the line is a very different question, and I'm going to say Gasly is going to be going back to Toro Rosso with him. I reckon 2021 though, we could see, you know, if Gasly continues, you know, performing this poorly, we could see some changes perhaps. You know, we could see Gasly try to spread his wings, you know, somewhere else in Formula 1, or whether he just cannot perform and gets dropped at the end of the day as well. I know it's it's difficult to say at the moment, you know, where it's still early days and everything like that, and you know, he is still young and things like that. But yeah, I'm putting Toro Rosso, Albon and Gasly then. So to give a bit of a recap at the end of the day, Mercedes I reckon are keeping the same, Ferrari as well the same, Red Bull, Max Verstappen, Danny Kvyat, McLaren the same, already been confirmed, Renault the same, Racing Point the same, Haas are going to get rid of Grosjean and bring in Ocon, Sauber the same, Williams are going to keep Russell and get Latifi, and then Toro Rosso are going to have Albon and Gasly there. But that is it. That's my predictions for F1 2020 at the moment. I can't wait to look back at this video at the late stages of the season, you know, when a bit more's been confirmed. And, you know, everyone can laugh at me just how wrong I was. Let me know your predictions as well for the new season down in the comments below. I know we're only at the midway stage, but yeah, really, you know, everyone likes to get involved with the silly season. But that'll do us then for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Get yourself subscribed if you're new around here as well, and I will hopefully see you guys next time for another video.